All right, welcome to the Pet Life Podcast. My name is Patrick, as always, and today I have again with me Mr. LC King, as well as Zach over at GudTims4All. What's going on, guys?
How you going? Thanks for having us again.
Yeah, wonderful to be here, Patrick. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I appreciate it. So just a real quick, we're coming back with talking more about this galvanic cell model, and I want to show people how important that is and where LC is going with this, because it is answering more questions or leading us closer to some questions that need answering, especially in this world that we live in. One of the big things, the paradigm of not knowing where we are or what we're doing here for a lot of people. And that is scary for some people. Some people want to be that way. But for those who want answers, we're here to get to the bottom of it. So that being said, let's just go into ULC. You know, the important thing we talked about last time with your model was understanding what this is doing. And we just, before we got on air, is it's ultimately creating energy. This model that you spoke of, where we live, everything's energy. We all know that we need energy. Do you want to maybe dive a little bit more real quick into kind of what you were describing before we came on air?
Well, ultimately, what I am actually presenting is an energetic model. So it's based on the creation of electricity. So it has a lot of different components to it, but in general, it's reasonably simple. As the structure of the galvanic cell and when you overlay it on the world. But there's also a secondary sort of way of creating energy, and that's through the thermogalvanic cell, and that's via a heat differential.
Mhm.
So when it's actually, as far as I can tell for now, is two batteries overlaid on each other, and they're both simultaneously operating and working with each other. But the best advice I can give for people that are new to the topic, or new to what I'm presenting, is actually just to go and read about the galvanic cell itself, how it's constructed, what are the components of it, and then the thermogalvanic cell. And that'll give you a really good overview of the battery itself. And then from there, I actually say, well, you know, how is this actually applied? And so I give the basic schematic of how that's applied. So the components of the galvanic cell is you have the electrolyte, you have the salt bridge, and you have an anode and a cathode. So you have four elements. So this relates to the salt bridge, relates to the earth. The electrolyte relates to the oceans and the atmospheric electrolyte. And then the anode and cathode is basically the sun and the moon. That's the simple way of putting it. Now, for a thermogalvanic cell, it only involves three elements, and that is an anode and a cathode and the electrolyte and a heat differential. So in this case, the electrolyte is the oceans and atmospheric electrolyte, and the anode is the cold side and the cathode is the hot side. So the moon being cold, the sun being hot. So as soon as you have a differential in heat, then you're getting a transfer of energy as well. So they're the basic schematics of what I'm talking about. And from there, we'll actually look at the chemical components of what processes could be happening. So in the galvanic cell, you really only have three elements in a sense. You have the sulfates, you have the salts, and then you have the electrolyte, which is basically the water that these the sulfates and the salts are housed in. So, and this electrolyte, you know, if you're looking at it from alchemical point of view, the old alchemical stuff is basically you have salt, mercury, and sulfur. So there's a lot of alignment between the old alchemical sort of perspectives on our world and this cell as well, which is really, really intriguing. But that's basically summing it up, and it's just how these elements interact to form and create energy. So Hopefully that explains it a little bit. It's complicated without actually showing diagrams, and for people to actually go and read up about the galvanic cell and its operation, and then move on from there on how it can be applied.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, just getting to the point is just those key points. You know, I think if people are interested looking at your page, because you definitely dive into it a lot more on YouTube, LC King. But I like that we're just kind of getting to the basics, because as we understand that everything is energy, electricity, but also understanding, okay, well, what system are we in? I'm just going to get right to the point, guys. It is not us on a spinning globe. That is not necessarily what I mean. Yes, it's not what it is, but there's more to it. And as people think it's just a flat earth, this and that, it's more to it, as Elsie's saying here, about understanding electricity. How is this moving within this realm that we are in? That's why we also have Zach on today to talk about this realm we are in and how it is not a spinning ball. So with all that being said, we can talk more, LC, but I just want to ask you guys both, being that you you know, are part of, would you say you're part of like the Flat Earth Society community? What's the name that you guys would? I don't know what it. I
Well,
don't.
definitely not the Flat Earth Society.
Okay, that's the one that gets the
Yeah.
psyop, right?
Yeah, you
It's a
go to that
psyop.
one and you get the disc floating in space, moving
Right.
up at 9.8 meters a second, yada. Yeah, it's, you know, it's to turn people off and say that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life.
Of course.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, there's not really like a name. I'm just, I don't know, a globe denier maybe,
Right.
because I'm one of those people, I can't say what shape it is, you know. It looks
Exactly.
flat, but I mean, I've bent water with electricity, and this is an electric realm, so I don't know what shape it is, you
Well,
know?
well, I think it's fascinating, real quick, what you said, and this is where the people that I've talked to, you know, not online, but just people who are considering themselves globe deniers, is saying exactly what you did, is being honest and going with my studies, my experiments, and just research. I can say it's not this, but I can't conclude what else it is, because I only know so much. Or a lot of
Hmm.
people will go, oh no, it is this. How can you say it's not? And that's what I think is, for me, when I was first catching on, was so fascinating, is, well, you're telling me that it's not, it is this. So I'm stupid if I question anything. But somebody else I would hear talk is being like, look, this is what I've learned through my experimentation, my own experiences. And yet there's only so much I can tell you. So, but yeah.
And that's hard. Yeah, it's hard for people to accept that. It's like, well,
Right.
no, we need the answers. It's like, well, I'm sorry, I don't have the answers. And I
Right.
wake up and I look at the sun and or the moon, whichever one's out there, and I yell at it. What are you? And then I go about my day, you know, and then I get it out of my system, and then, yeah, I
Right.
don't know. There's so much I don't know, and you know, I'm happy to say that.
See, yeah.
Is one more thing I can learn.
Well, from your guys' oh, go on, LC.
Well, there are, you know, some logical things, and we can use reason to the best of our ability to actually, you know, discern. Even though we don't know exactly about certain things, we can say, well, does this work at this level, a smaller level, and can it be applied to a larger scale?
Mhm.
And so we can make reasonable deductions from that as well. We can look at a body of water and say it's flat. We can also say that, you know, you can't have a pressurized system next to a vacuum without a boundary. So there's certain logical things and provable things that we can do at a ground level to
Mhm.
actually say, well, that gives us some, you know, definition of where to look and how to understand what's going on. So I think we can come to certain conclusions based on things that are real and that operate. So from there, that gives us a basis point to work from. And I think we can go a long way just by, you know, using the things that we see and know that they operate, and you know, applying them, because in the end, we're just all we're doing is copying nature in some form or another.
Right.
So as long as it works, then we know it's real.
Right.
So
Anything you want to add, Zach?
No, just that Spot on. I mean, there are certain things that we cannot prove using the scientific method, you know, and we call these things the laws of nature, because it's like the electric field. How do you test something when you can't step outside of it?
Right.
The electric field is everywhere that we can go and that we know of. So to actually test it scientifically, you'd have to be able to remove yourself from that. And it can't be done. It's just like the laws of thermodynamic. You know, we know there is some type of barrier up there, even though we haven't seen it or touched it, because of these laws of thermodynamics. This is, you know, they dictate nature and how it works. And that's one thing people need to understand, is certain things can't be proven, you know, using certain methods. There's sometimes you just have to take logic and accept that.
Mm. So going about the law of thermodynamics, because that is a big one that is discussed. Can you maybe just describe a little more for someone who maybe doesn't understand, or yeah.
Well, I always describe it, you know, when you have a pressurized system next to a vacuumer, it's like pumping up a tire on your car, but having no tire.
Mm.
Or, you know, as soon as you let, another way of describing it is basically you'll have the tire pumped up and it's got more pressure inside that, and it will want to equalize with the lower pressure outside. So you undo the valve and it wants to equalize. So if you're going to have um, our world as a ball spinning in space with no boundary, so no tire around it in a sense, well, it's going to want to equalize to that really low pressure of space. So, and the space itself, as they describe it, is a huge vacuum that we can't even recreate um, on the world, you know, down below here, to actually get that much vacuum. So it's got a lot of potential that it would basically pull the atmosphere off straight away. So there is no possible, you know, counter to this. You either have an enclosed system or you have no atmosphere.
Right.
So to me, it is an enclosed system, and energy sort of moves around within that system and changes form. And anyway, that's how I see it.
Yeah. So to be like a devil's advocate, right, is someone would say, well, what about, well, gravity? Gravity's what does it. What do you guys say to that?
Well, can I field this one, Lucas?
Yeah, man.
I love this one. So many people believe that, you know, in these physics courses, in these college physics courses, that gravity supposedly makes things fall down here on Earth. And that couldn't be any further from the truth. Gravity is what keeps planets in orbit around suns, moons in orbit around planets, and, you know, the stars swirling around it, pretty much the lights in the sky. That's what gravity is for. The electric forces here on Earth, you have your nuclear forces that hold the atoms together, then your atomic forces that are created between the ionosphere and the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And those are what are actually holding everything and making it move in the downward direction. They are 26 times stronger. The nuclear are 37 times stronger. These are all, you know, concepts.
Mm-hmm.
The electric forces are 26 times stronger here on Earth.
Wow.
And gravity does not take effect until the closest thing that is affected by gravity would be these, you know, the moon or asteroids that are outside the ionosphere. Anything within the ionosphere becomes polarized, and therefore you have electric forces taking place. Now, the interesting thing is the ionosphere has never been recreated in a lab.
Mm-hmm.
Maxwell changed Ampere's equation. It was actually Ampere's law before it became Maxwell's laws. You know, you had Coulomb's law, Gauss's law, and Ampere's law. And Maxwell, and this is what blows my mind, there's only been 3 papers I can find throughout history that actually show that Maxwell's fourth equation and Maxwell's first equation contradict themselves. It clearly states you cannot have electrical transfers in a vacuum. You have to have matter for the static electrical charges of these objects to transfer through. And in a vacuum, it does not happen. So Maxwell, needing there to be an ionosphere, the way things work here on Earth and the way the electric field measures, he just said, oh, you can have an ionosphere now. We can, it has to be, because look at this place.
Yeah.
We're on a ball. So yeah, but it's still never been recreated. And as recently as 2012, published physicists have put this out in papers.
Wow. It's so fascinating. And so it appears through just what you were saying and just loads and loads of hearing it just time and time again being programmed, is there's a lot of things with our model and the globe model that you can't recreate, you can't understand, you might not see it, you might not experience it, or you experience it but it's not really there. But we're right in this other one where your senses are telling you one thing, that's wrong. Like that's hogwash, i.e.
That's the magic of it. They get you to trade your common sense for nonsense.
Right. I mean, even to this day, I still think about when I was, younger in school, and then also just being in the city, the museums here, you go to like the Space Museum, all this stuff, and what do you see? Oh, these stars are dead, they've been dead, and what you see is not really there. It's been dead for millions of years. And even then, I love space. For the longest time, I was so fascinated, but I'd always ask myself, well, how in the hell do I see it? And if it's dead, well, it's so far away and it died so long ago. I'm like, well, this has been around for thousands of years. People have seen this. This is how they've navigated. And even just asking those questions, you start then just going, when you don't start to know that there's these types of other options or thoughts, it's like, oh no, it's stupid. Or, oh, maybe I'm just asking too many dumb questions. And that's part of the programming. That's the deception. Is your own conscious is like, nah.
Yeah, the first time I went actually to Cape Canaveral when I was about 8 years old. And the Discovery was up there. I didn't get to see it launch. That happened like a week after we left. But I got to go to Cape Canaveral and in through all the NASA stuff. And I saw the lunar lander.
Mm-hmm.
And no joke, the first thing I said to my dad, I looked up there and I said, okay, where's the real one? Because I could tell then that, there's no way that thing could even be put on an airplane and flown anywhere. It would have fallen apart.
Right.
And then he told me, no, that's it, this and that. And then I believed him, it just, okay. Yeah.
And
I was a NASA
fanboy.
I was before Flat Earth. Sorry, Lucas. I was checking NASA websites every single day, looking at the Secchi satellite and the SOHO and the LASCO and observatories. I was fascinated with space.
Right.
And then I found out, and that broke my heart. I wanted to be the last starfighter, Yeah,
man. It's true.
Yeah, speaking about the lunar lander, I showed my wife the picture of it. She's just like, that can't be. And I'm like, yeah, that's the real photo of it. I mean, it's made of curtain rods and, aluminum
foil. Yeah.
Right. Well, what's interesting is, and this is because we'll get into all these things here deeper into it, but the deception and how powerful it is, as we just said, you can look at something and be like, there is no way that thing can get anywhere. If we're saying that it's so far away, you need all this power, but that thing made it through all that, like, I don't know, like just so simple as I mean, I don't know if you guys will watch Owen Benjamin, but he calls it a crackhead's tree fort. It's so ridiculous because it just looks like that. But when you're so involved with it, you're like, no, this has to be, the veil that really does get put in front of people's eyes is like, well, I want to know how you're seeing it. And then I try to think back to when I saw it, and I realized that observation I had was like, I wasn't actually really looking at it. I think it was the thought of it being there and not actually paying attention to detail. It's just
it's like watching it on TV almost. You don't really,
right.
You're thinking of that image you saw when it landed and this and that, and you're not looking at it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how they get you.
Yeah,
and you're sort of going along with the story. The story's already built into your head, and then it's just, you you sort of have a confirmation bias as you look at these things rather than being highly analytical. And
Right.
so, once this sort of deception and lies started to be pulled apart, then we start really, put on our analytical minds and have a look at what they're actually telling us. And yeah, all of a sudden, things just don't correlate, don't make sense, and it doesn't conform to real science.
Yeah. Absolutely. Man, I think if we can, just taking that further of then looking at, okay, so, we're talking a little bit about, the moon landing. What are, from your guys' point of views and just your research, how could that be impossible in regards to the way their system works, in regards to like Van Allen belt, all those things? Like, is there anything you guys want to chime in on that? Because there's a lot, a lot of things that just don't make sense.
Well, my biggest one was, I mean, they had all the math, for how rockets work and everything. And Werner von Braun said the fuel tank is going to have to be as big as the Empire State Building to get to the moon and back. I mean, this is what he said, what he first said. And then all of a sudden the thing's 290 feet tall or something like that, a
Yeah.
quarter of the size or a tenth of the size, a quarter of the size, what he was claiming it needed to be. And that it's okay now. It's all good. There's so many things, but I like the little ones like that. Just the little ones where they tell you it's impossible.
Yeah. Oh
Or,
yeah.
or the other one where they're calling them on the phone and
Right.
there's no delay.
Right. But I know a spot in my neighborhood that if I walk, I lose the signal like that.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing that is, again, talking about the logics. The thing that for me was looking at the dune buggy that they put up there and just thinking, well, the weight distribution of that thing, how is that affected? Because where is it? Like, because when you start adding these different components and now when it's gone, like, as much as, yes, they're doing math and saying that they're doing stuff, it's like, well, that right there is supposedly super, super heavy and millions of dollars. And then also, did they just leave it up there? Have anyone seen it? You know what I mean? This is the things that I just start to think about. Is like, logically, it's like, I mean, people shoot the moon all the time. No one's seen it. Anything in regards to the math aspect that you guys can think of?
Well, they just made a new moon law that you're not allowed to land near
Are you serious?
where the Americans landed. Yeah. It's now a historic site and yada, yada, yada. It cannot be disturbed and blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
How convenient.
What about, how bright the moon is and, when they're on there, it's all dirty and
There's
dusty.
some math. Yeah.
Right.
Do you know about the inverse square law of light?
No, I don't.
Okay, so you half the distance to something and it becomes 4 times brighter. So
Okay.
say the moon on a full moon, you can read by the moonlight. If you're in a nice dark area on a bright full moon, you can read a book by its light. But we'll just say that's 1 lumen, just one. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. So you go halfway to the moon and you're now at 4 lumens.
Okay.
Half it again, 16, and it keeps getting brighter. Well, if you do that till you get about 100 miles from the moon, it's like 10 million lumens.
Wow.
Okay, they would have been incinerated.
Yeah.
If it was that bright. And then they show you this dirty, dusty ball that they're standing on that isn't emitting any light.
Right.
So it totally goes against the inverse square law of light. It can't be. It just can't be.
Right. Yeah, that was a big thing that I actually noticed as well, just watching the videos over and over again, watching people like yourself and just starting to see like, oh yeah, like that really does make no sense of just how bright I'm experiencing it from here, but how dim and dull it is there. And now knowing that makes even just that much more sense.
And honestly, with all this stuff, the list is just ginormous.
Right.
The amount of inconsistencies upon inconsistencies. I mean, you could spend hours and hours rattling off these different
Oh yeah, and it's not even
controls.
just the Americans. The Russians, when they had their claymation back in the 60s, they had these certain helmets, right, that were connected to the suit, and they even show video of the astronaut in the suit getting, strapped in and everything, and he's turning his head, but the helmet does not move. The helmet is secure, right? You don't want to let air in. It's a nice secure. It just looks straight, and then you turn your head in the helmet. Well, in the claymation that they showed of him doing the first spacewalk, this is Yuri, whatever his name is, the first Russian to do a spacewalk. Well, he's out there floating, and he's got the wire connected to him, and then all of a sudden he looks back and goes to wave, and his whole helmet turns a little bit towards the camera. And it's like, well, that doesn't happen on that suit. How did that happen? Yeah, they've I don't know if they're doing this on purpose,
Right.
And the other thing is, for us humans to be in such a vacuum is, or the effects of that vacuum on the suit, or the temperature differentials between being in the sunlight or being in the cold. I mean, do they have was half that lunar lander made of an air conditioner, just to deal with the differentials
Right.
of heat and cold?
Right.
How does the suit actually, it wants to draw that pressurized stuff out of the suit? So there's so many little problems with even our fibula, the system in our brain that tells us, helps us orientate. If you put it in a 0G, it doesn't work. You would feel completely crook, if not start really, throwing up, be disorientated, because all those little, crystals and things in our ear that help, in that solution, help orientate us.
Right. Oh yeah.
So yeah, again, just more problems upon problems, and
Yeah.
let alone the sort of, when they have them in the space station, um, you know, their hair's all sort of
Bride of
sprayed up,
Frankenstein. Yeah.
yeah, and and then you got little problems where things come in and out of focus, and and you
Right.
can see it's screen stuff. So
Yeah.
there's just so many problems with it.
So
Well,
when
yeah,
you
they don't even hide their. Have you ever? It's called augmented reality.
Mhm.
It's like wearing a virtual headset, kinda,
Mhm.
but it'll be a contact lens. And they did this live on the space station. There's a lady talking to some children. She was from the ESA, and there was no stuffed animal right up in the corner of the screen. And then all of a sudden, there's a noise, and the stuffed animal appears after some sparkly lights. And she goes and grabs the stuffed animal that just appeared out of nowhere and starts playing with it and moving it around.
Hmm.
So she has a contact lens in her eye, or she's looking at a screen, and she knows where to go and how
Right.
to pick up these objects that aren't really there. They use this all the time and have been caught sticking microphones through people's necks. One guy was playing the guitar and singing, and the other guy was supposedly in the room, but they were in different rooms because the guy took his microphone and went to go put it in front of his mouth and accidentally stuck it, and the thing looked like it was sticking through his neck.
It's so interesting. Well, from a person who isn't necessarily into all this and quite understanding, the big question, as always, is, well, why would they lie? Why would they do it? So I know it's
I
a
think
loaded
it's
one, but how would you guys start that?
For me, it's just simply a matter of control. In And that's it. Someone who knows the truth and hides it from other people has an advantage, and that's simply, as best as I can understand it, it's just an element of control, and the effects of that lie are actually huge.
Hmm.
um and when I look at the work that I've been doing and things, the model basically draws in science from all around and creates a harmonious sort of integrated science that you could take to anywhere. Well, that doesn't, for the people that knew the lie and knew the truth and then told the lie, well, they could compartmentalize everyone. And there's another aspect of control, compartmentalization. And that's the way I see it. Zach may have a different sort of view on it.
Yeah. Now, I'm not a religious person at all. Before Flat Earth, I was, well, not before Flat Earth. 2012, I found the Fibonacci sequence. And that was my proof that, oh my goodness, I'm an idiot. There is something that created this place.
Mhm.
Now, I don't particularly subscribe to any certain type of religion or anything like that. I just know there's a creator.
Mhm.
And I think we're in almost a spiritual battle. If they can hide the creation, then they can get you to doubt a creator. And it's not so much about the creator itself, it's about us,
Mhm.
that we are not a random accident floating on some speck in a distant God at best, or godless universe.
Right.
You know, we are at the center of this creation. We are divine beings that have, you know, God-given rights to live here, and they can't be taken away unless we give them away.
Mhm.
You know,
Absolutely.
nobody has to put a mask on their face. Nobody. They do it because they're giving away their power. And if they have you living in fear of asteroids or meteors or nuclear, all this stuff that they make up to scare us, you're not going to think critically. You're not going to think logically. I look at it like I the movie The Matrix, the
Yeah.
documentary, you know, with Keanu Reeves. At the beginning of the movie, he's lost. You know, he knows something's wrong. He's can't sleep. He's, you know, got anxiety and he doesn't know what it is. He just knows something's wrong. You know, he can function in society fine, but there's just something eating away at him.
Mhm.
Well, at the end of the movie, when he finds out where he is and what he is and how much power he actually has, he takes control of that. And he's, you know, he's not scared anymore. He's living again. And that's what they don't want us doing. They don't want us exploring this beautiful, wonderful creation that we've been given. They want us to live in fear of it. I think that's what it's about.
And it's also, about I look, 100% agree with Zach there as well. It's also about nature and how it creates abundance, and they don't want
Absolutely.
us having that abundance. And if we, are compartmentalized and controlled and don't know where we are, well, we can't see that abundance either. So I think that's an important one, that if we understood um, how this world operates, we could create what we needed wherever we needed it. So I think that's a big part of it as well. And the other thing is that true science, and spirituality are not different at the very end of the thing. So it's, you can, when you get on this path of actually recognizing nature, and well, you're seeing a reflection in yourself and you're seeing the creator, and so these things all work hand in hand to lift you up,
Mhm.
in whatever way, intellectually, spiritually, creatively. So again, that's what it's all about. And 100% agree with what Zach was saying as well.
Yeah, you guys hit some amazing points. And for anyone listening who doesn't, necessarily follow this and whatever that may be, just understanding is what Alcia was saying here is in regards to nature and spirituality. Why is it that so many people in today's society, material, it's like, I want money, give me more, give me more, give me more, and they're not happy, they're not fulfilled? A lot of people is because they don't understand that missing link, or they think that this isn't important, and that is the giving back to the soil, giving back to nature, being that you're in the system, you aren't above the system. Yes, we are divine in many ways, but in order for us to be that divine, it's being a part of that system and giving to it. We have that
Mm.
capability and we have the capacity, but what are we in the mindset for a lot of people is, let me take, 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 take. Why? Because of, as you guys have said, it's that fear. It's, oh, I'm in fear of my life. I'm in my amygdala. I need to be in quote unquote survival. Now
Mhm.
you're just you're a consumer, you know, but you're
Yeah,
successful.
it's no more, okay, I have extra. Yeah, I want
Right.
to share with my neighbor. You
Yeah.
know, it's I'll hoard it
Yeah.
and they can starve, you
Yeah.
know. Well, I have all this food and
Right.
you can go out and make more food.
Yeah.
That's, you know, yeah, there's
Well,
such an abundance and they want to show
yeah.
scarcity.
Well, it goes even to simple because, you know, I've been real quick. I'm working on a documentary with Tom Barnett. I don't know if you're aware of him, but I'm focusing very much on the food part. And one of the biggest things I'm learning talking to farmers all over the country is one, how easy it is to start. And we talked about that as well, LC. But it's
Mhm.
also how much you give to it and how much you receive is insane. There's no reason to starve. No one should ever starve. It is not that hard to create
Mhm.
that much abundance. But as we, you know, as you guys just said, it's like, yeah, well, you know, you follow the news, of course you're going to believe that there's a shortage.
Well, and the craziest part is most of the stuff that we grow in our gardens in these fields isn't as healthy as the clover or the dandelion or the sorrel that we consider. I don't use this word. I consider it, this is the one 4-letter word I don't use. They call them weeds.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, there's no such thing as a weed. There are
No.
misunderstood plants. That's it.
Mhm.
So many of these plants are so healthy for you, and people will starve and not bend over and pick up the plant and just eat it. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but we've been taught that these are no good. Let's grow grass, something that our bodies cannot consume and digest, by the way. And let's put it everywhere and get rid of all this nutritious food that we could live off of, literally live off of growing in our yards. It's, yeah,
Mhm.
they've reversed everything.
Absolutely. I'll see
Yep.
you want to say something.
No, that was summed up pretty well, you know. And
Well,
that's it. It's just there is abundance, and the more we understand our world, the more we can create the energy required, the houses that are better materials, better designs. You know, even when you're looking back into some of our history that we're you know starting to uncover, the levels that these past old world sort of guys were at, you know, it exceeds ours. And you know, so it's just that changing perspective, getting out of that compartmentalization, unlearning, and it is a process, you know. Unlearning stuff that you've been taught can be difficult, but it's doable.
mm,
And but we need to start that process of unlearning, and then you know using our senses, you know, communicating, using logic and all these things to actually see what's reasonable, what is actually there.
well, to your point about all those pieces, right? It's people want to, and the thing that I'm learning is you want to try to express these things to people, have them unlearn and see, you know, hey, what are you doing? What's this new path you're taking? And understanding that there's also a rug underneath you or others to support that fall of like, oh my gosh, everything I thought I knew is not the case, right? And that is, you know, I think we can all agree to some extent that's one of the big reasons why people can't accept this. They're going to keep using the same phrases, and I hear this all the time. You're following conspiracy theorists, these people are quacks, or they're this, they're that. It's the same things. And you start to realize, obviously, oh, this person's so ingrained with that thought because of the fear of falling and nothing there to catch them, right? And that's what
Mhm.
we don't want to do by any stretch of the imagination. But anything you guys want to add on that?
I think you hit it right on the head there. The fact that we don't have all the answers is hard for a lot of people. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have that. Well, what is it? You know,
Right.
or like, why the lie? It's like asking a psychopath why he kills people.
Right.
You know, we can guess, but we don't know. We don't know what's going on in these people's heads. They could be doing this for fun for all I know.
Right.
You know, there's a group of secret societies members called the Jesters,
Yeah.
and their whole job is to play pranks on the masses. So Now this is kind of an elaborate prank, you know. I don't know if they'd go that far, but people just don't realize how easy it is to make something up and get other people to believe it.
Yep.
One of my favorite interviewers, real quick, Lucas, David Weiss, he always will tell people, you know, I did 3 years of medical school, and then I found out that it was all nonsense, and I got out of medicine and I started my own solar company business, and it did real well. And he's like, now, to know the truth, you would know that I never went to medical school, but to find it out, you would have to go and do research, and it would take you some time to figure this out. And people don't want to do the research.
Right.
They want to just listen to the story.
Right.
And if all the teachers' stories is the same, I'll just accept it. That's easy. I can go, you know, play a video game, watch a sports ball game, whatever. And the truth takes time. It takes effort. You know, it's not going to be just given to you. Or if it is, it's given to you in mockery, in a cartoon or in a movie, or, you know. Yeah, it's amazing what they've done.
Yeah.
I always talk about Harry Potter. You're familiar with these movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one, when he meets Ollivander, the wand maker, he talks about, oh, the person who had the other, you know, feather for the other wand, he did amazing things. Now, they were horrible, wicked, evil things, but they were amazing things.
Right.
You know, and you got to give these people credit. It's amazing what they've been able to pull off here. Not that it's good, but you got to tip your hat. It's
right.
You know, they had me, geez, for 36 years of my life, they had me fooled. But it's admitting that you were fooled. That's the hard part. Just saying, hey, you got me. You know, people don't like doing that.
And sometimes when you think about, you know, who these people are, you know, how dark their spirits are, sometimes you just don't want to, you know, dive deep into, you know, trying to analyze and work out why they're doing it, because you don't want to corrupt your own sort of being as well. And I've found that when you have really see really dark things, that yeah, you can understand them, you can see that they're there from a distance, but you don't have to dive into that mindset to, you know, see why they would do it, and trying to psychologically analyze these, you know, dark things. It's not something that I find is very helpful. You want to move in the opposite direction and analyze the people that shine the brightest. Do you know what I mean? That's the direction that, you know, I would personally try to move.
Yeah. Well, to piggyback on that, I think through my own journey and just also my career, I told you, LC, I work in as a personal trainer for over 10 years now. And one of the things that it just dawned on me was, yes, people maybe don't want to go into the darkness of it, but I think what the biggest thing is also being a filmmaker, writing scripts and TV shows and pilots and all this stuff is when you start to see, when you go into the depths in any movie, what has to happen? A potential of the character, the hero, has to be reached in order to overcome and be that, you know, that light or that power within self that comes out of the shadows or comes out of the inner cave or whatever, that, you know, in any story. And the thing is where I've come to realize with storytelling, but also as in training, is when you help people get to the depths of self, of what's really bothering or what's keeping them from potential, it's not that they can't get down here. It's that there's a fear of people's own potential. And that's what people don't want to drive into. Prime example, and this is in the simplest way. I get time and time again where I get clients who will do stuff. They're doing really well, all these things, and they crap out. They don't go for what we've set, or, you know, they bail. And the first thing I'll ask is, why'd you stop? Or did you have 2 more? I did. Well, then why'd you stop? Because I was afraid I couldn't do it. But now I know I could do it. So it's this mindset of you're already going into the depths of physical stress, whatever the case is in this example, And then what happens is they're hitting the darkness of this matter of the body shaking. The signals are going off in their body of like, something's wrong, not able to be connected with self present, which in my mind is the God connection, that spiritual connection of being present in the moment. And that's all you have. And they're afraid to go to that place because there's that potential of what that really means. It's opening up more doors than just your physical transformation. It's going, wow, I have something more in me. What is it? And that's scary for people. And it's that potential, in my opinion, that really starts to get people worried because, as we said, well, you take someone in the dark of someone else's life. I mean, people love watching murder mystery shows and they'll watch it on binging. So they love hearing about the darkness that people do, but it's that light of overcoming, really being a hero or really being, you know, a shining light in many ways. So anyway, that's just my two.
And that's what I see too. I see that, when we come back from this lie and sort of really start resolving it within a number of people, the potential for what our world could be is just enormous, to be suppressed by, the monetary system, suppressed by lies and things like that. What are our potentials? And we don't even know uh, as a community, as a people. So where we could go when we understand this is really fascinating to me, as well as just it's exciting as well.
Yeah, I don't think the Jetsons were too far off
No.
of what we could be, really.
Yeah.
I mean, Lucas and I have covered some of this hidden technology, like the Searle generator, and they're talking about flying from the United Kingdom to Australia in a half hour.
Jeez.
With this technology.
Yeah.
And it was made out of balsa wood. It wasn't like it was titanium, like the Blackbird or anything like that, built like a razor blade. They built these craft out of balsa wood, and they could travel at these tremendous speeds and stop on a dime. And this was in the 1950s.
Wow.
It's just, if all this was released, it would be free energy. You could live anywhere in the world you wanted and work anywhere in the world you wanted and fly there in a half hour.
Damn. Dude, it's wild. But this is what's interesting about the deception, right? Is you talk to people in the globe mindset as they go, well, we're so much more further technically advanced now. And then my first thing to every single person who says that is I go, architecture, right? Old architecture.
Yeah.
We can't recreate that. Nobody can. Not a single contractor, anybody can replicate that. Oh, it's too much money. No, it's not. In regards to what they're saying, they just can't do it. They don't have the skill. They don't have the equipment. So how did they do it? I've been to the pyramids in Giza. How the hell did they do it if they're just dumb? We're more technologically advanced. That makes no sense.
And it's not just one building. It's whole city landscapes that are, technically advanced in the way that they're designed. The electric train systems, all these different components of these old world stuff. And it's just really amazing.
Right. And it's all connected back to what we've said from the beginning. It's the constellations, it's the zodiac, it's what's going on in the sky. And if, as we said, in an enclosed system with all the other things, pressured gas and vacuum, like that, you can't have that. It has to be in a closed system. It needs to be pressurized. And we know, Polaris is a magnetic charge. It doesn't move. People have shown this with pictures. It stays still. So for me, I was like, we're talking about history being dumber and we're progressing. I say contraire.
Yeah.
And Polaris is an interesting one. Oh, sorry, Lucas, go ahead.
You're gonna talk about precession there, Zach?
Yeah, go ahead. You can start it, and then I'll add to anything from there.
Yeah, I sort of go against the idea of precession. I think it is part of that globe lie. And there is, certain proofs towards that, just from those structures on the ground that line up with stars and things like that, that they would be all out of alignment if there was this, back and forth moving from, where the North Star is,
Hmm.
if it was somewhere different, then nothing would line up. So there's that. But yeah, you can take away, Zach.
Well, yeah, Stella Polaris is what it was originally named, and supposedly, at least as his story tells us, it was named by Nicholas Ptolemy back in like 130 something AD, so about 1850 years ago. Well, they tell us every 71 years. Well, let's get to the good part first. Stella Polaris actually translates from Latin to the words the pole star. So it wasn't an accident, that he named this star the pole star. That's what it actually means. Now, he had 900 years of history, astronomical charts and history to go from. So if there was a precession, would he name any star the pole star? But the most interesting part is if he did name it back then, it would have been 27.5 degrees from where it is right now. Nowhere near the pole. It would have been making huge circles in the sky if their precession story actually exists.
Hmm.
But they say it's a degree every 71 years. You don't have enough time to watch it move a degree and a half. You're going to be dead before that time comes and goes. So it's a nice story, but the history doesn't add up,
Yeah.
It's just mathematically it doesn't work in their model. And
So
James Bradley,
yeah.
it's called stellar aberration. He found out that certain stars in the skies, this was back in the 1830s, he was one of the astronomer royals. He found out that, hey, all these stars are, there's some stars that are parallaxing this way, and it's a very minute 0.02 arc seconds or something like that, just teeny tiny, but they are precessing a little bit. But then he found out that every 3-4 years, that little bit of precession they went forward, it jumps back. So instead of 0.02 going forward, it'll jump back 0.06 or 0.08. Now,
Right.
NASA knows about this today, and they mark it as a 0. And that's it. That's how it keeps precessing, because there is no negative in there, because it doesn't work in their model. And not all the stars do it at the same time. They do it at different times.
Wow.
So it's a real complex, and I don't even know if these movements are taking place. This is what we're told.
Hmm.
But the fact that they mark the negative as a 0, it kind of hides the fact that all these stars are resetting. They're not continuing to precess. They precess a little bit, and then like a watch, you go and somebody's up there fixing their watch. Oh, it's off 2 minutes. Let's move it back 2 minutes. And they just ignore this. They don't want to talk about this at all.
Hmm.
And I look at why would they, lie about this? And, my reasoning is that they're trying to hide the mythologies and the associations with the zodiac.
Hmm.
So, they give us basically this precession version of the zodiac where it's actually out of alignment. And so none of the actual mythologies make sense anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas if you take the tropical and actually apply it to the stars and then say, well, now Aries is, at the equinox. Aries also represents the sun rising in the morning. That's why it's associated with a rooster, and so there's all these associations and symbology that are, that are part of this, that we could really start to understand some of the old mythologies, and get into context again what they were talking about. And that goes back again to that seasonal cycle and encoding information in certain times of year and certain activities, and starting to get us working in nature again and using nature's energies and working with it at the appropriate time, So again, that does relate to abundance, creating abundance. When you work with nature and you do things at the right time, you plant at the right time, um, you're going to get a good crop. You're going to get a good harvest. All these things make a big difference.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, got Zach there. Yeah, but
no, to me.
oh, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, no, we lost. Oh, Zach's coming back. Hold on 1 second. Hold on, folks. He's coming in. All right. Hey, Zach, you there?
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. It just kind of dropped off there.
No worries. But yeah, no, just to kind of piggyback again on you, LC, is when you can confuse people enough to just this place that we are in, and first off, not even ask where we are, just assume we're on a spinning ball in this speck of dust in this infinite universe. That creates obviously more distance from everything, God or creator, distance from just even any sort of focal point to stand on, because your mind is like, oh, well, I'm just spinning and we don't even know where we are, or something's always going to crash here. But your mind's not then going, hey, it's the new year now, March, really, not January. Time to start using the energy from the sun where it is the most powerful, right? That, the spring equinox where you're like, start planning, give this life. Even just here in Jersey, I was just starting to look at how much snow we were getting, and it just walking and being in nature around the area. It's not crazy nature, but it's enough to go, oh my gosh, this snow taking on all this heat, this energy, not heat, but energy from the sun, absorbing that, creating a charge as it melts into the soil. And then that is when you get a lot of snow, obviously, then you get the mud season, but you're understanding it is an abundance of now this charged, snow now, into water that is absorbed, and understanding how you're then creating so much charge beneath the surface. And it just was dawning on me, and I was like getting my own mind blown of like, whoa, that's so fascinating. Because I was like, well, why does it spring? Yes, the sun's coming through, the snow's melting, but I'm like, well, what else, right? It's obviously learning more about like the amount of energy that the sun emits during this, the spring equinox at its high, it's the most potent, I guess you can say. But then understanding that other component of diving, as you guys were saying, diving deeper, not just agreeing with Dave Weiss, but like really then researching, is this true? And you start realizing the potential in water, structured water in our body, as we talked in our last thing, of how there's so many as above, so below. It's within every piece, the macro, the micro. And it just starts to go, when you realize that, you go, oh yeah, as Zach said, we're not an accident. This is a purpose that we are living in, but we are part of the system. How do we then understand our place in that system? So
Well said.
Exactly.
I'm just getting, I get jacked up, dude. I go on walks and I'm saying like, no shit. My fiance's like, language. I'm like, sorry. Little guy. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm in my head. Don't worry about it. But yeah, so I don't know if there's anything you guys want to add to that, but if not, I was gonna try to talk about eclipses, because that's another one that people go ape shit about. Anything you guys want to add to what?
Yeah, I sort of see it a little bit differently than most, because there are speculation out there that the moon isn't involved in these eclipses and things, but I think it is more of a energetic interaction, and so there's certain dynamics that may play out because of that energetic interaction. And when you take into account some of the older stuff like Rahu and Ketu, then they're all depicted as a dragon or a snake or a serpent and things like that. Well, whenever you see that depiction, you're nearly always talking about the flow of energy. So, and they're a nodal point, but they were never really positioned as a physical planet. They were counted in some of the older sort of writings, but they weren't put as a planet and that's just my perspective. Other people have other ideas of what's going on. So I'll let you take it from there, Zach.
Yeah, with the guy, like I said, I scream at him every day, "What are you?" But yeah, I don't know what they are, but I know what they're not through experiments that anybody can do. You can take a sphere and then put it by a light and then cast a shadow with another sphere on that sphere, and it will never make a it will never look like an eclipse.
Mhm.
It makes a Pepsi symbol. It curves in one way, and then because the only way to make a perfectly circular shadow is to have it cast on a flat disk. If the object is spherical, the shadow lines, because of that sphere, they will look curved.
Mhm.
I need to make a video of this. I haven't seen the video in years, but someone did this years ago, and it made so much sense. So there, and there's also a type of eclipse called I'm having a brain fart. Maybe it'll come to me, but it's an eclipse where you can see, it's a lunar eclipse, but you see the sun and the moon above the horizon at the same time.
Right.
So how could you see the sun and the moon at the same time if the earth is between it, casting a shadow upon it?
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. It might be a Selenilian eclipse. That might be the name of it, but it's
Yeah, I've
happened
heard
about
that
50
name.
times
Jeez.
throughout, and astronomer royales have documented this. It's been documented by, astronomers. It's
Yeah.
not just, YouTubers doing this.
Right.
But yeah, and it goes back, hundreds of years that they've seen these things in the sky. And the shadow, the weirdest part is the shadow comes from the top of the moon. So the moon's in the sky and the sun is coming up and the earth is supposedly between them, but the shadow's coming from the top side, not the bottom.
Wow. So fascinating. And see
So
this.
yeah,
Oh, go
we
on.
know what it isn't,
Right.
but what it is, I don't know. I mean,
Right.
yeah.
But that's what's so fascinating. And so what has many things have drawn me into really going, like as you said, I'm not a flat earther, but I'm definitely a globe denier because of these questions. The more questions that come with the questions that you have, like any kid, right? What does any kid do? Why? Why? Because you have so many more questions. There's so many things you want to know, but as obviously we talked in our system today, and the deception and programming is, well, we need an answer. If we don't have an answer, then that's unacceptable, right? We've grown. We're this. We're the best it's ever been. Oh, that's why it is. And then, well, don't ask any more questions. That's just what it is. Just be a good boy or girl and get the A. And but it's like something as simple as that of like, okay, well, this has been documented time and time again. Is you and everything you just said. There's that, and then you just go, oh, that can't make sense on this system. Interesting. But that's in my opinion somebody who's trying to use logic and use maturity. Not saying that people are aware that they aren't, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, all that being said, I just want to show you, get your guys' input. But this is the one thing that really sold it for me. So I want to get your guys' input. Antarctica. Once that shit started coming into my field and I was looking into that, I was like, yep, something's going on. And that was, well, with other things, made me look at my senses more and really ask questions and using my own observation. But the one thing that did not make sense to me, and I say this to every single person I talk to, is I'm like, the Antarctic Treaty in 57, 58, 59, somewhere in there. I go, you're telling me that we had 2 world wars, supposedly, the way they say, and then you're going to tell me that they decided after all of that, after all the bombing, all the death, all the destruction, you know what? We're really worried about these penguins and really worried about people destroying this area. That being said, let's all come together. and let's just put a treaty, and we're going to do this in the most peaceful way we can think of. We're going to guard the shit out of it, and anyone who wants to come will fucking kill you. Unless you're part of our crew, or you go on this boat, these cruises that we own all of them, and you can go to this spot. It's not really the South Pole. It's really not anywhere. It's just a stick in the ground, basically. And for anyone who looks into that, that's not hard to find. And that for me made me go, well, there is something.
Yeah, before I learned about the Antarctic Treaty, I had learned about the midnight sun. And this was early 2015. And if you don't know what the midnight sun is, if you go up to the Arctic Circle up north,
Mm-hmm.
you can go and party 24 hours a day in the sunlight. The sun never sets.
Wow.
It doesn't rise too high in the sky, but it just kind of goes around you in a big circle above the horizon. And it'll stay daylight for, a few weeks. Well, this has been documented and recorded, and, some guy I'm sure was like, I'm the first to do this,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went out and looked for the Antarctic one, because if it's a ball, it happens down there too in their summer.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2015, there was not one video of the Antarctic sun.
Interesting.
So and they'd been down there since the 30s.
Yeah.
1930s, they should have seen the Antarctic sun 70 years now.
Yeah.
Nobody pulled out a 24-hour time-lapse camera and recorded it. Nobody wanted to be the first person ever to do that down there.
Right.
And that just made no logical sense to me. We want to be the first.
Yep.
That's the drive for so much stuff in the human condition is, I'm going to be the first to climb the mountain, the first to do this, the first to do that. But this one, everybody said, no big deal. I don't want to be the first. We'll let someone else do it.
Right.
It just, that rubbed me the wrong way. And then I found out about the Antarctic Treaty. I was like, oh yeah, right. Environmentalism wasn't even a word in the 50s.
Right. Oh, totally.
There was no such thing as we need to save any animal back then. It wasn't even in the dictionary, environmentalism.
Right. Right. But yeah, anything you want to add on there, LC?
Oh no, I think Zach pretty much summed it up. I mean, it's it's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Collusion at the highest levels, I would say.
Right. And then if you even take it a step further, and just understanding, whether or not it's true, I can't say, but like the Admiral Byrd or whatever, traveling further down, supposedly he had an interview where he was talking about how he saw more land. I don't know if that's true. This is the thing that people who follow.
Bigger than North America.
Right.
Not just the United States now. People think, oh, okay, no. North America, he says. Right. That's a big piece of land. He says that no one has ever stepped on.
Right. And here's the thing, and to that point of like people who will constantly call me a conspiracy theorist or people that I've talked to conspiracy theorists, it's like, no, I'm here saying that I can't validate that. I have no observation. That is a blind trust, but it is being able to go, okay, well, they do guard it. What are they guarding? Like anything else in this world, using logic, is like, I can't say that for certain, but what I can say for certain is if there's guards, which this is proven, and you can go find this out, it's not that hard, is that what is someone guarding? It's either they're keeping something in or they're trying to keep something out. That being said, if they're on the website of the government is saying no trespassers allowed, you will be, whatever, killed on sight, detained, whatever that may be. Okay, clearly they don't want people in. So that I can, logically deduce it down to, okay, they're trying to keep people out. From what? Oh, well, it's the penguins. Okay, well, now you have this guy who's now traveled and says there's stuff out there. There's, as we know with not a spinning globe, it's basically, there's a very good chance that it's surrounding this entire realm that we're in. So what's out there? Why is it that in old history, in literature and across countries and nations and cultures, they're talking about the four corners of the earth? And like, what are these things meaning? What is these pieces? They use them, as you guys were saying, in like the Matrix documentary, they're talking about this shit in movies. So people who know shit are clearly putting this in front of our faces. Oh, it's all fantasy. Well, why do they put such an emphasis on these things? why is it that they have to get this point, or they try to subliminally put these things in, and they just, there's reasons for it. And as we were saying, it's like, hey, sometimes they'll just show you to mock you and be like, we're showing you things and you can't even see this because you're just, you're not paying attention. Your logic is out the window. How do I also know this real quick? When I've made films, my whole point, and when I make a lot of like psychological thrillers, I like that genre, is I want to plant things in the film to see if you see it or experience it. That's one of the things I've always loved and been fascinated by. So I would create these worlds literally to try to bring people in to see if they missed these things. And as people be like, oh, I had no idea, I totally missed it. Well, the point is to go back and watch it again, to be invested.
And I've that's happened to me in so many movies where you watch the end and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, and I go back and watch it, and then you start seeing it set up and the plot, how, but you didn't notice it at all before.
Right.
You had no idea that the cripple was Kaiser Soze.
Right.
That was one of my favorites. The Usual Suspects. It just, at the end, I was like, no way.
Yep. And this is the thing, is they show you in that on the poster, the people in the lineup. You know what I mean? Like if I'm thinking of the Secret movie with Kevin Spacey, right?
Yeah.
So they're showing you on the picture of the main photo, like these guys in a lineup, right? And they do it in a weird, they put him all the way on the right. They put him kind of like slanted. Like, it's like little things like that where they're showing you right in the beginning, hey, basically these are your suspects. You know what I mean? Someone's done something here.
And I never even connected that one of these guys was Kaiser Soze,
Yeah. And that's the beauty of, as you said, hats off to these people, whoever they may be, these, dark forces, because, they're throwing fast ones over people. And it's like, the answer is right in front of you. This story that we're telling you, the truth is right there. But are you willing?
And they do huge amounts of encoding, especially with the Zodiac as well. It's all through the movies. The story, the hero's journey is the sun's journey through the cycle. So once you start understanding that cycle, you can actually see, this is what the hero's doing. This is now he's with the arch enemy. Now he gets almost killed or dies, and then he's resurrected, and then finally builds up enough steam to battle and win against the arch enemy type thing. So that's the story of the sun.
Yeah,
and
if I remember. Sorry, Lucas, go ahead.
Yeah, you go.
I was just going to say, according to British literature, there's only 19 stories you can tell. That's it. There's only 19. You can change the names, the places, the actions, but there's only 19 different stories. So yeah, you could definitely incorporate the Zodiac in certain ways into every one of these stories.
Oh yeah.
Easily. Yeah.
Yeah, but they do it with cars and everything, all the symbols for the cars and ads, and all of it's encoded.
Colors. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And this is the thing, is that Crow 777 would say, it all, and you said it as well, it all goes back to the sky clock. It all goes back to the Zodiac. It goes to looking up. What is the world we live in now, other than when they're trying to show you these, space launches, is look up while you watch it on TV. Watch it on TV. We'll show you 18 different cuts of this thing going up, supposedly 17,500 miles. It's like, don't look up. Look at your phone, look at the TV. What's interesting is I look outside, I'll walk my dog, or just in the evening, and I'll see Orion's belt that's now looking at these, and I go, I know when I walk out that door, if it's a clear day enough, I know exactly where I'm looking, or at least in the vicinity. I'm still obviously brand new, so I'm learning, but I can at least now have enough awareness to go, I'm looking and I'm seeing, oh, it was here this time last night, now it's over here. That's interesting. And just knowing that there's so much more connected there, as you guys said, it's an electricity, it's power, it's energy that we're completely ignoring.
And the other thing that I find really fascinating with this whole subject is when you start looking at some of the older ways that they, it's like an older science, and it's based on the quadrivium, where you have your mathematics, your astronomy, and geometry, and they all tie together into a really harmonious system, weights and measures. And so there is an older system there as well that I've tried to point out, but you know, and, and I think the closer we get back to understanding, those older systems of applying harmonics, mathematics, and geometry, and to our world, we're going to get a lot more information that comes as a result of that as well. So even just the way we approach our sciences, it do well to actually sort of revert and go back in to see what these older um, ideas are all about, for sure.
Well, yeah, one of the most hidden things I think about, beyond the architecture and beyond all these things that we see that these old civilizations did, the Hebrew alphabet, the modern Hebrew alphabet, which is very old. You had your ancient and your paleo, and those were more pictograph styles.
Mm.
And then for some reason, they came up with these symbols that look nothing like the pictographs.
Hmm.
And if you put it into an oscilloscope and collapse the sine wave, when you speak the aleph, the letter, you say aleph, and when you say that into the oscilloscope and collapse that wave, it produces the aleph symbol that they use. And it does this for all 26 of their letters.
Whoa.
So when you say these letters, yeah, so they knew about the frequencies and they were really connected at one time.
Wow.
To where what they were saying, they could actually draw.
Jeez.
And yeah.
And even the English language, if you've ever come across Marty Leeds's work, even the English language with its cipher has extremely important things that are associated with it as well. And, even some of the work that I've done, I've basically taken the names of the stars and their groupings, so an asterism or something, and you can actually find a set of numbers in it that relate to calendars and different things
Wow.
like that. So there's actually some, it's a way of actually researching things as well. So it's a way of making sure that what you're looking at, if it has encodes in it, through that justification of English language and number, you can actually find out more information. It's like a secondary layer of information within what you're looking at on the surface level. So
Wow.
there's different ways of researching as well that we sometimes may not be aware of what we can do because of these um, these ciphers and things like that. So I think they're very intriguing and definitely worth opening the mind up and having a look at these things in a different way.
Absolutely. Well, this showing you exactly how this place is stranger than fiction, right? In regards to everything you just said, these deciphering encodings and all these pieces, people will hear that and immediately they'll go, oh, that's crazy talk. That's crazy talk. Why would you think that? And it's like, well, going back to movies, do you watch Harry Potter? Are you
Mm.
are you involved with how there's this magic spells and things are appearing and using these phrases that create a like you clearly are, and you want that to be a thing. You go back for more. You're literally dressing up some people, right? You have memorabilia, like it's something that you innately, there's something about it that draws you. But the minute you then say there's reality to these things, I'm not saying it's
Mm.
Hogwarts, or I'm not saying it's exactly this, but the messages, the encodings that they're showing you with these encodings in these movies, like that you do catch, like that, there's reality to that, guys.
Yeah.
When they even,
And
Go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, they even tell it to us right to our faces. We are taught to spell.
Exactly.
And then you get even fancier and you're taught to curse people with your cursive writing. It's right in the name of this stuff. You're spelling, you're casting spells using symbols.
Right.
It's like you said, it's amazing. They can tell you right to your face. They could use these words, but the words have two meanings. You know.
And the other thing, like that I find really special with number, because number is basically a relationship between things, and that's what nature is as well. It's relationships it's built on relationships. A forest is built on relationships between, trees and the soil and whatever else. So, when you're looking at number in that fashion and it tells its story from 1 to 2 to 3 and has all these associations with it, well, what you're actually building up is a way of thinking in relationships as well. And that's very important because in some sense, our minds don't work quite linear, like one after the other, but we actually can bring associations from multiple areas and time together. So, that's a big part of how our mind works. So if we are actually studying things that reflect our mind, then it enhances our mind as well. So, I think these, being diversified in how you, research or how you come at certain topics is very important as well.
Yeah, man. Dude, I love this. I would love to have you guys for much longer. Hopefully come back again, because there's like, I was telling LC, I'm watching your talking electricity video you guys just posted not too long ago. I'd love to go down more of those rabbit holes. But I don't want to take any more of your guys' time today. But is there anything you guys want to finish with? Any last comments to anyone listening who may not be, keen on this not spinning globe model? Anything in that regard you want to finish with?
Yeah. Can I go first, Lucas?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. It's real simple. Don't believe anything that we're saying. That's ignorant. That's doing what we did before. And we were no different than you were. 6 years ago, I was you.
Right.
But I heard information that I didn't believe, couldn't be true. But the greatest thing about this lie is that they cannot hide it from us. We can go test this stuff. You can go out to a lake and measure to see if there's curvature. There's so many different things to test this place we live. It's not like, certain false flags or crazy things that have happened in the past that get swept under a rug and all the pieces get taken away and shipped off and melted down. And we can't know the answers. We can't. But this is something they cannot hide. That's why this is why I started a YouTube channel. I knew about all the other lies, but again, you get called a crazy conspiracy theorist if you talk about this stuff because you can't prove any of it. It's just conjecture. Well, this one they can't hide. This one is for everybody but you have to go look for yourself. Don't believe me. But the thing is, you have to believe NASA and all these space agencies because you can't go test it for yourself. But what we're saying, you can. So just give it a try, go out there and look, and then use logic and make up your own mind. It's that simple.
Love it.
Couldn't say it better myself. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, if you guys are good, man, again thank you so much for your time. I much appreciated. And just where can people find you guys?
You can find me on LC King YouTube channel. That's probably the easiest.
Okay.
Yeah, I am GudTims4All, like it's spelled there. It's not GudTims4All. GudTims, the number 4 ALL. Friday nights, I am on Iron Rail Media. We do a podcast every Friday night, and then Ironworks every Tuesday and Friday morning on TFR Radio. Lucas and I hang out there as well.
Awesome.
So it's real early, Tuesday and Friday Eastern time. It starts 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. Eastern time here in the U.S. But
Well,
yeah, we have a lot of fun, and there's people from all across the plane that join us.
that's beautiful.
So
Man. Well,
yeah,
I'm definitely I'm following you guys on the Iron Realm Media. So, and I'll have to get that other one and get on that, because you guys are just heap of information, and you guys, the big thing is no one wants to be told what to believe or how to think, and you guys, I sincerely do such a great job at just being like, look, this is the information that we've gathered. And I think that's what people are really, I feel, are now more open-minded, because it's not in your face. It's people just being like, look, we want to have a chat. And as you said, Zach, we don't believe us. Just, you can go do this. And I think that's a beautiful message, man, giving people the opportunity to make their choices in life, instead of someone doing it for them. But on that note, guys, thank you again so much. And until next time, we'll see y'all later.